You're listening to Captain John Doe, real aviation stories told anonymously. Let's get into it.
Hello. Welcome back. You got Mindy and Kevin here for another episode of the Captain John Doe podcast.
Thanks, as always, for listening, and most of all, for everyone who's been writing in. Our email submissions have been popping off, and we just kind of skim them. We don't want to ruin the surprise to even ourselves, but I've seen some really good ones.
I am so excited to keep this momentum going. The other thing you guys have probably been noticing is that our social media for the podcast is starting to grow a little bit. So make sure you guys follow on all channels. We're everywhere.
Captain John Doe podcast on pretty much any of the social channels, and you'll see a lot of clips there. You'll see info about episodes coming out. We will have some topic requests there on what we'd love to hear from you guys. So lots of good stuff on social media. Be sure to meet us over there as well. Speaking of topics, let's run through a few topics that we'd love to hear. We get a lot of really great pilot stories, but remember, this is for all aviation walks of life. Flight attendants, pilots, maybe you were just a passenger on a flight, or maybe you had some strange aircraft buying or purchasing, selling encounter. There's so many things you guys could write in about.
We want this podcast to be for everybody. You know, once we made the announcement, I've had a lot of my buddies message me.
Non-aviation people.
Saying like, will you take this story? The answer is, if you think that we'll take it, we'll definitely take it.
Submit it. Let us check it out. So the way you do it, you go on our website, www.captainjohndoe.com, and there's a very simple form on there. And of course, this is Captain John Doe. And if you didn't pick up on that, John Doe means anonymous. That little tidbit was from my sister-in-law, who took way too long to figure out why we named the podcast John Doe. On the website, if you go to put it in, it's anonymous, so you do not have to put your name or email in. And I want to just make that point. We're not choosing to not share names. We simply do not have them, unless you guys write it in there for some reason. But there's no requirement to put your name in. You are safe with us. Right, Kevin?
Right. We are not going to out you. And even when you're sharing the story, if it's something like real personal about one of your companies, or it'll give it away, you know, leave it out. We can embellish the story as much as you want it to be. And don't be afraid to let it all out, because it really is anonymous and we don't know who you are. Nor do we care.
No, really don't. We just want entertainment. That was the whole inspiration for this podcast. I feel like there's such great content out there in the aviation space, specifically with career advice, career interviews, how you got started flying, accident reports, educational flight instruction. There's so much good content you guys can get about that in aviation. So we're not here to reinvent any of that.
If you're listening to this, you're probably a lot like me, where you're consuming all of that, what Mindy just said. I always am listening to the how-to and how to get better and how to get a job. But you know what I find myself when I have early flight and I'm driving to the airport? I'm not ready for how do I, pull up X, Y, and Z on Garmin Pilot at 5:30 in the morning. I am on my drive home, but this podcast right here is something you can enjoy with your brain in a way that can just consume something fun.
Yeah, I call it a brain break. I love aviation, but I just can't consume technical stuff all day long. I need little breaks from it. So if you love aviation or you love to hear about aviation, this is the right podcast for you. We share some pretty funny, crazy, head scratcher stories. And me and Kevin have been doing a lot of pressure on all of you to make this podcast run. We've been requesting topics. We've been asking you guys to write in. That's what's going to make the podcast work and what is making it work. But it's time to put ourselves in the hot seat. We've asked for submissions from all of you. We are going to do submissions ourselves. So today, we are going to share some of our stories. Obviously, these are not anonymous. We will be accountable for these ones, but I think you'll enjoy them.
So let's go back a little bit to my air traffic days. I had a head scratcher moment. This was in Orlando when I was at the TRACON. So to set the stage, I'll try to keep it as basic as possible because, you know, we don't want to out people in this podcast. That's not the goal. So I was working the departure sector at Orlando, and it was a normal day, and I just do my job. And how it works, it's real simple. A plane pops off Orlando, and they call me with their altitude, climbing via every day, all day, over and over and over again. And in my experience there, if that plane departed and they didn't call me within about 10 seconds of the tag popping up, I always knew something was wrong, always. And I can back it up with facts. Almost every single time they didn't check in, pretty much when the tag auto-acquired, there was an emergency that happened. This time, the aircraft popped up. Didn't say anything. They got through about 2,500 feet. Still didn't say anything. So I knew right then and there we had an issue, but I didn't know what it was. So I just casually said, you know, XYZ, hello, Orlando. No response. I called the tower real quick and I said, hey, switch me this aircraft. And they said, we did it on departure like we always do. I was like, all right, I tried him again. No response. Then I see the tag turn northbound immediately. And those of you familiar with Orlando, there's 4 parallel runways. This plane was, I think it was 737, just for setting the scene. It turned right, a hard right turn to the point where it barely hit 18 right. So they depart on 18 left at Orlando. So it barely clipped 18 right. That's how tight of a turn is. And I watched it. I got back on the line to the tower and I said, what's this aircraft doing? And I could just hear the panic in their voice because it's right next to the tower. And their altitude, they might have been at 2,500 feet, maybe. And they were going head on into the final corridor going into Orlando. And I'm still not talking to him. Tower's not talking to him. And this was just something I've never seen. I've seen every emergency possible, but this was so wild. And finally, they were midfield northbound, stuck at, they might have even descended back down to 2,000 feet. And I hear pure panic. And they finally said something. And all I did was calmly, because at this point, everyone in the room saw the tag and they were going head on with the string of 8 planes on vinyl. And I said, I need you to turn the plane to the coast and just climb. And that's all I said. And they were panicking in the response and everything. And the captain at the time was saying, I can't control the airplane. I don't know what's going on the frequency. And I just kept saying as calm as I could, fly towards the coast, fly eastbound, and just climb the airplane. And as controllers do, they recover and get out of situations. And we got everybody out of the way in an instant, stopped departures. And the only saving grace in this instance is there was not another departure, because Orlando launches 2 planes at the same time. And somehow in that instant when it happened, no one else departed, which is wild to me. So to to keep going, finally, the captain comes on and says, I have control of the airplane. They were on an east heading and at 5,000 feet. And he could barely speak because he was so scared. And I just said, why don't you just come back and land? I'll say this about the air carrier. It was not a U.S.-based company. So I think that was a lot of pressure on the crew to divert back. So they told me, can you just keep me around here and I'm going to try to compose myself? And I was like, sure. And about 10 minutes go by and they say, okay, we're going to keep going. We'll take a climb and carry on. So we did. Climbed them up, shipped them off. During the flight, this is where it gets even more crazy. So like that whole thing happened. During the flight, the captain called the soup because we gave him the number because he was so frazzled. It was scary. They called. The captain said, once again, not a US based company, so not going to throw anyone on the bus. But the captain said this is like his week 1, week 2 as a captain, and his first officer. This was his first trip, and he's like, I don't know what to do, and he was still frazzled. And this was about 2 hours later.
What was the goal of the call? Like when he called, what was his intention?
I think he just wanted to talk because he was still like,
oh,
like it was the weirdest experience we've all had. And, you know, we did our very best. And, you know, I told him to...
I know what I think happened.
I know exactly what happened. Now, I don't know this to be true, but okay, let me give you my very basic way. So about an hour before, Orlando was on a north operation.
Exactly what I was thinking.
Got their clearance for the climb via north, but we flipped to a south operation, and they had their flight plan in. And I think
they didn't reset the box. They had the wrong departure in. They threw it on autopilot. The plane started flying the wrong departure that they forgot to put in the new one. When he said, I can't control a plane, he just needed to click the big red button and turn off the autopilot and hand fly it. And he just was so frazzled by getting completely turned around. He probably didn't even know if he were to hand fly where he would fly to. Like, that's how frazzled.
I mean, I get it now flying, but at that level, it was just something. And I've seen wild emergencies. I'm sure as this podcast goes, every now and again I'll share some, but that one was a true head.
That's scary. That's really scary. It's just like, I imagine being a controller and watching the screen and watching that happen. You're trying to reach out to this person like, oh no, oh no, oh no, and they're not responding. That would be the worst feeling in the world, to be sitting there helpless watching a plane point and fly at a bunch of other airplanes.
We were talking about it. Like, obviously, once the situation got under control, that a miracle just happened, because there is always another movement of an aircraft, and where that plane was, there is a plane in that position almost always. And for some reason, there wasn't one there, and it was truly a miracle. So, like, that's why that story is more impactful to me than a lot of other things that I've had to deal with, because of how crazy that nothing bad happened.
That's really lucky. And so tell me, on the ATC side, when something like that happens, they flew up to whatever country they land, whatever. What do you guys do in terms of like reporting or what? So what happened after that? What did you guys do from ATC side?
So we always submit, they're called MOR reports. They're just mandatory reports. And we put that into the facility log every day. And that's about the extent of that. I don't know, some people on here might know more information about how international flights work. But from my understanding, when something goes off, there's not a lot the FAA can do outside of not allowing that company to operate there anymore.
And what's you as the controller, what was your input on said report? Or does the supervisor completely do it?
The supervisor would completely do this.
So they'll tapes, make a report.
The second it happened, I had him behind me to watch the whole thing. Because when things happen, you want other people to witness. That way,
or help you, right? Maybe you're problem solving at that point.
Well, the biggest thing is to call the tower and tell them stop everything.
Yeah.
And for someone else to shout over to the final controller and say, move everybody.
Right. So while you're trying to get a hold of that plane, though, the supervisor can be pointing fingers like, you do this, you do that. It's great that you called someone over right away that can kind of help manage the other people that you need to help in this situation.
Yeah, no, it was a really good team effort there, and something that will stick with me forever.
That's scary. That's so scary. I can't imagine sitting there watching that happen.
So that's a little head scratcher for me.
I would say so. Well, that was a heavy story. Do you want a lighter, more humorous story?
Here's some funny.
Okay.
Funny.
Because I have a couple on my list. I'm sure I'll be sharing a few more of my stories as well. But I have one it's got a couple of stories embedded in it. So I think you're going to like this. And the person I was with, I guess I'll keep them anonymous because I haven't asked them if I could say their name.
You know who you are.
Actually, there's 2 people involved in this. I won't say either of their names. So to start out, as you guys may or may not know, I have been an aircraft sales broker. I've been selling airplanes for about 9 years now. And so I've had a lot of different encounters and in a lot of different airplanes. And so this story is about the Beechcraft Baron, which we love the Baron.
Love the Baron.
It's one of my favorite airplanes to fly. It flies so well. It sounds so cool. Anyway, so at the beginning of this story, to kind of teach you a little more about the Baron, this salesperson that I know told me this story. So this part's not my story, but it leads into an important piece of equipment that the Baron has. So the Baron is a non-pressurized piston aircraft, but it can fly pretty far. So you can fly long distances. Some people use it for charter or for corporate stuff. So it's not super uncommon that you could have a hired pilot up there flying people around, doing longer distances. So anyway, this salesperson is out on the ramp with the Baron one day, and these 2 people walk up to the plane, and they have it on display that day, so people are looking all over it. And he immediately goes to them and says, "Hey, how are you? Can I show you around this airplane?" And it was a female flight instructor and a older male student of hers. And she gave him a lot of attitude. And she's like, "I know all about this airplane." He's like, "Okay, whatever, you go ahead." So she starts showing her student all around the plane. They're doing kind of this pre-flight walk around, if you will. And then they climb into the cockpit. And he's just kind of watching. He's like, whatever, I'd let her do her thing. So they get up in the cockpit, and the guy, her student, pulls out this funnel-looking thing in the cockpit and says, "What is this?" And the sales guy is just kind of watching over the wing. And you could see a little quick moment of panic from her because she's trying to figure it out real quick. She goes, "Oh, that's oxygen," and puts it up to her mouth. And the funniest part is there's not built-in oxygen in the Baron. In fact, the funnel that she put up to her mouth so confidently is called a pilot relief tube.
I love that.
It's a urinal.
I love that.
It's literally what you pee into, a pilot relief tube. It's a very simplistic thing.
Yes.
It is a very simple mechanism. It's just this funnel with a tube, and the tube just spouts out the belly of the Baron.
That's disgusting.
Hilarious.
Awesome.
So funny. And so I asked the salesperson, I said, "Did you correct her?" And they're like, "Nope, never said a word." And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I would have said something or not. Would you have?
In that scenario, no, because you could tell this story forever now, just how you did. Because it's way, way better the fact that she still thinks that she was putting an oxygen mask on when that was on
She put it on her mouth. On her mouth.
I was just thinking, Dad, don't you have like a first-hand experience of seeing that reaction?
That was only the lead-in to my story.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I've thought about this. Okay, that's just so that now you guys know that the Baron has a pilot relief tube. So again, funnel with this tube, it kind of wraps up into this little pocket that sits in between the pilot and co-pilot seat. So fast forward, I'm flying a Baron, and on this particular day, I am flying a friend home from Kansas to Tennessee, dropping him off, then continuing on to where I was living in Atlanta, Georgia. So we go to the FBO, we get everything ready, blah, 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 get in. We had a little bit of ground time getting our clearance to leave. We get in the air. I kid you not, under 20 minutes into this long flight from Kansas to Tennessee. It's, I don't know, 3-ish hours if I were to guess.
It's pretty far for sure.
Yeah. So we're less than 20 minutes in, and my buddy looks at me and with this pale face and goes, Mindy, I have to pee. And
like me.
And by the way, he's also a pilot. And so like he knows small airplanes.
What does that mean?
What do you mean?
You know me. I have to pee all the time.
Yeah, but like less than 20 minutes into the flight.
Sure, I've never done that.
No, most pilots wouldn't. Because they know small airplanes, you got to pee before you get in, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so he's like, and so I look at him, and we had just departed. So I was like, okay, should we turn around? Because we have a long flight in front of us. And I don't have a bottle for you or anything. And it's just me and him and the Baron, and we're sitting up front. So I'm like, what am I supposed to do to help you? Let's turn around. He's like, no, I'll hold it. I was like, it's going to be 3 hours. No, I'll be fine. Okay, whatever. Not my problem. Well, it turned into be my problem. So then we fly, we get into cruise. It's maybe only another 20, 30 minutes. But now we're like making some ground. Now it's not, let's turn around. We would just land somewhere else if we had to. And he's like, he's been quiet for a little while. And he finally looks at me. He's like, I really have to pee. I was like, dude, we could have just solved this when we started. Now we're going to have to divert. We're on an IFR flight plan. Like, come on, dude. And then it hits me. And I didn't think of this in the beginning because I have never used the pilot relief tube.
Well, the only thing you know about it is supplements as an oxygen.
Yeah.
Right?
The only thing I know is I would never put it on my mouth. So anyways, light bulb, you could literally see above my head go ding, ding, and go super bright because I've never used it. One, because I know how to hold my bladder because I'm not 3. But also because I am a female and it's very hard to pee into a small cup, especially in a small airplane.
I wouldn't know.
You wouldn't. It's a tough life out here. So I've had to learn to train my bladder because I don't have the luxury of peeing into Gatorade bottles.
It's unfortunate for you.
So then I tell him about the pilot relief tube. I was like, okay, here it is. I pull it out. Simple contraption. It's like a black small funnel, goes to a tube. I'm like, it goes right out the bottom. No big deal. He's like, okay. I was like, don't worry. Like, I'm going to like curl up into a ball and look out the window. That's as much privacy as I can give you.
There's no curtain on the Baron?
Well, we're both sitting up front and there's not a way, at least gracefully, to get to the back cabin in flight. And also he didn't have his multi at the time. So I really needed to sit up front. That wasn't an option. So I was like, we've known each other for years. It's all good, homie. I'm just going to look out the window. So I curl around. I'm looking out the window and time is passing. Time is passing. It's really quiet. So finally, I'm like, hey, is everything okay? And it's still silent. I was like, is everything okay? And like, I can't turn around because God knows what kind of situationship is happening in the seat right next to me. I'm like, is everything okay? Like, answer me. And he's like, there's a little bit of a problem. And I'm like, what problem? I was like, can I turn around? He's like, no, don't turn around. Do not turn around. Okay. So I'm still hunched over the window, like, what's happening? He's like, so I started to pee into this little black funnel cup that you said, and the pee's not going down. Like, what do you mean it's not going down? He's like, it won't go down the tube. It's just sitting, and the size of the funnel is like, would fit in like the palm of your hand. It's a very small cup. It's just to like route the pee down the tube.
Probably bigger than you think.
No, it's not meant to hold pee. It's meant just to route the pee down the tube. So I was like, he's like, is there like a button or something, or like a switch we have to turn on? I was like, I don't know. I've never used it. I thought it was pretty simple. And mind you, we're arguing, talking, whatever, while I'm still looking out the window, obviously. And then he starts panicking. He goes, I just made it worse. I was like, why? He goes, well, I started a pee and didn't get to finish it. I'm about to piss my pants, and I'm splashing pee everywhere because I filled this cup up instantly.
How old was this Baron again?
Nearly new.
Nearly new. Nearly new means like a month, by the way.
So I was like, well, I can't help you because I can't turn around and see whatever's happening over there. You've got to figure this out. And so he's super panicked because I do get it. Like, once you start your pee, you've got to finish. And if you get interrupted midstream, that's painful.
Yeah, that is painful.
So anyways, he's fumbling. And then finally he goes, I got it. And I was like, okay, I could turn around. He's like, no, I didn't finish peeing yet. And I was like, oh, duh. Okay. So there's like a little like lever button on the actual funnel part that you have to hold to open like the disc at the bottom of it to open up and let it go down the tube. And why they would do that, I don't know. That seems silly. Anytime you're going to put liquid into that funnel, it's gonna the intention is for it to go down, right? So I don't know why there had to be an extra little lever button thing on the funnel, but he figured it out and got to finish his pee. So we had a very, very good laugh about that, because I was glued to the window for a very long time during this whole encounter that I couldn't turn around. And then I'm like crying laughing. It was the funniest thing that's probably ever happened in the cockpit to me, especially that we're just like screaming at each other and I can't even turn around and look at him and help him. So anyways, he figures it out. We keep flying. I land in Tennessee. And so I was sitting in the right seat. I had him sitting in the left seat. And so I get out first, and then he's hesitant to get out of the plane. I'm like, what's wrong? He's like, I promise I'm going to clean it up. I was like, excuse me? He's like, yeah, I promise I'm going to clean it up. So he gets up from the leather seat in this airplane, and there's a massive puddle of pee. His pants are fully soiled.
What?
Because it had spilled during that time.
Oh my gosh, he didn't tell you it spilled all over him?
No, I didn't know. And you know, in airplanes, like your sense of smell like doesn't really work. So I didn't even smell it, thank God, flying the rest of the trip in. But yeah, there was a full puddle of pee in the seat.
That's fun.
Hilarious. I'm like, yeah, of course you're going to clean it. So I'm standing there. He's running in the FBO in his pee pants, trying to figure out where he can get some towels, comes back out, cleans it up best he can, which we don't have cleaner in there. So pretty much it was a water wipe. And then I have to sit my butt there and fly to Atlanta in the pee plane. So I wasn't thrilled about that. So already, like, I'm a little distracted with that. I spent more time on the ground than I thought. So by the time I'm leaving, now it's nighttime. So now I'm flying the Baron solo home back to Atlanta, flying over a little bit of mountains, not West Coast mountains, but that's the most mountain flying I had living on the East Coast. Then I get in the air, it's pitch black now, and then I start picking up icing. And I was like, will this day ever end? And it just like got me thinking, because nothing bad happened, but it had me thinking about, if you've ever seen those little infographics, the triangle, and you should never fill in all three corners of the three no-nos for you. And sometimes those change for people, but mostly it's nighttime, mountains, and icing. And you should never have all three, right?
Right.
That's when you start to have that Swiss cheese model. And so anyway, everything worked out fine. The Baron has boots on it. It is a Fiki equipped aircraft, you're allowed to fly it into known icing. So the procedure on the Baron is a little uncomfortable. Booted aircraft are, in my opinion, because you have to let the ice build prior to using the boots. So like you're watching, because if you don't want to do it when there's not enough, because you want that breakage. So for example, with TKS, with an alcohol base like the Cirruses that you fly, Kevin, you put that on prior to entering icing, and then it coats the wing and you won't ever see any icing, ideally.
All you pilots out there have been asked this question, hopefully on your check ride. What is anti-ice and de-ice? And boots are de-ice.
Right.
Tiki, anti-ice.
Correct. Yeah, one is preventative and the other one is once you have it. So it's a little uncomfortable to look out there and see icing, and it's night. I was fairly new to the Baron, so I'm flying around in a Baron at night. One of my first solos, sitting in the pee chair in my pee pants, because, well, almost said his name, because my friend.
My friend. Do you still have those pants, by the way?
No.
No, you burned them?
I don't know what happened to them, but I'm sure that I don't. So.
Did you sell that plane?
I don't know. It got cleaned up. It was fine. It's a leather seat.
It came with a good story.
It could take a lot. Yeah. So anyways, that was one of the best stories. So, yeah, just starting with that piece of equipment that is so funny to me in the beginning, that it's not supplemental oxygen. Don't ever put it on your mouth. And then trying to get my friend to use it, and he pees everywhere. There's pee sloshing all over the cockpit.
Man, that makes me think of how I manage it. So the Cirrus, any Cirrus engineers out there listening, you should put that thing in there. But there's not a relief tube, so I use these Porta-Johns.
Yeah, I think most people probably travel with
Porta-Johns are great. Like, if you've never heard of those, you should buy them on Amazon and keep them in your plane. Like, it's like this little gel substance that soaks up the pee, and it's got
not porta potty. Yeah, porta potty. Porta potty.
Yeah, and it works for men and females. So I love it. It works for me.
How many times have you used one and peed at a small plane?
Every time I go over about 2 hours and 45 minutes.
With customers on board?
Never with the customer. No.
That would be awkward.
No, never with the customer, because that's unprofessional.
I would say that's unprofessional, yeah.
I would say so. No.
So how come you can hold it when you're with customers but not when you're alone? Is it just like, do you feel cool peeing? Does it give you like a little bit of an ego boost of like, oh, I'm going to pee in this
It's
plane?
almost always on the morning flight. So hopefully my morning flight is by myself, going to pick up a customer. If I have a morning flight with a customer, I'll start the dehydration process at night.
Okay, so you don't prep to dehydrate yourself.
Correct.
If you know you're going to be alone.
So, for instance, I have a flight on Tuesday that'll be about a 3-hour flight, and the way there I'll be by myself. So I'll drink a bunch of coffee, do my normal thing, be dialed, and I'll probably go through 2 Porta-Johns.
Oh my gosh. You fill the whole thing?
Yeah, because when I'm about an hour out, I'll drink a bottle of water, and then I'll go again.
So you get out, your client's like opening the door, like, hey, buddy, good to see you, and you're walking out.
Ideally, I get to the airport before they get there.
That never happens.
I know. Anyways, it works perfect, because then I land, I put some gas in the plane, I go use the bathroom again, and then I'm good for the 3-hour flight home.
That's hilarious. I have never, ever, ever peed in a small plane. Again, because I'm a big girl. I know how to hold my bladder.
Didn't you buy me a really awesome present for Christmas one year? What was that called?
A Travel John.
Travel John. I don't know if I like that nearly as much as the Porta John. Porta John's great because you can just toss it in the trash.
Yeah, no, that's a good system. I've done I have several 6+ hour flights in piston aircraft solo, and I'm just fine.
Insanity, by the way.
And I'm just fine.
6+ hours and a piston.
I know you always ask me, why don't you take a stop?
What type of piston? Tell them what type of piston.
Usually a 182.
Or you did in the 172 as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'll fly a plane to its exhaustion, not to mine.
I did a 6.5 hour, excuse me, I did a 6.5 hour flight in a Skyhawk the other day. We stopped, thankfully.
You did? Non-stop?
Not non.
That doesn't count.
It counts for me.
Everyone counts.
That's way too
Everyone
long.
flies 6
It was a
6 hours a
6.5
day.
hour flight with a training lesson.
No. Okay, that does not count at all. I'm talking non-stop, baby.
I couldn't do that.
Non-stop.
That's why when I work for the big boys, they got that bathroom in the back. Captain Kev's going to walk down there and shake everybody's hand on his way to the bathroom.
Okay. Well, that's my pee story. I wish I knew the details of another story of a different friend. I wasn't with her, but I do have a friend that peed in a bag in a small airplane.
Bag.
You can probably guess who that is. Don't say it.
In a bag.
I
Is it a
would
Publix bag?
probably. You know who it is.
Ah, we don't have.
We're going to see if she'll write in that story because it sounds hilarious. But the only detail I know is she peed in a bag because she was desperate. And it was just a grocery bag in the airplane.
I get it. Desperate times call for desperate measures. All right. So the last one I'm going to share, it's another air traffic control story. I'm an aviation nerd. We know that. I worked the coolest planes ever in my career. You know, stemming from Atlanta and Orlando, I've worked
Like 172s, Cirruses, Pipers.
No, we're talking about Air Force One.
What?
We're talking about the Blue Angels.
What?
We're talking about the T-Birds.
What?
The Warthogs. I go on for days. But that was a normal occurrence, and it was awesome to always work. I always kept the flight strips for them. I still have them. You know, the first time I ever worked Air Force One, the first time I turned the the Blue Angels for traffic, I didn't even know it was all of them because they fly so tight. But the coolest airplane I've ever worked came with a awesome story, at least to me. I hope you guys can appreciate it too.
It's almost such an iconic story that it seems made up because it's like
It really happened.
it's that like catchy of a story that's like, oh, that's just one that everyone tells, but this story actually happened to you, which makes it quite funny.
So this was back in Atlanta. I was working our ultra high sector. So for those of you that are ATC nerds, you know what that means. But for instance, this sector started at 36,000 feet and it went all the way up to 60,000 feet. So that was the, airspace I was working. So I get this aircraft. I'm not going to give it away just at first. So I have planes ranging from 36,000 feet all the way up to about 57,000 feet. 57,000
That's
feet
really high
is
too.
wild. So during this same time, Gulfstream had a new model aircraft out from Savannah testing it. And this was common for me to get their test flights, but they had a block altitude I gave them from 51 to 57. And I could see what altitude they actually were at, and they're at 57,000 feet right now, which was the highest I've ever seen any plane before. But here comes this other plane, and I'm climbing them up, and, I give them the step climb to 40, to 45, 50,000 feet. And then I say, climb and maintain flight level 600. Never said that in my life.
Yeah, I've never heard that in my life.
Okay, so I got the Gulfstream at 57,000 feet on top of the world in a plane that hasn't even been announced to the world yet. But I just climbed this aircraft to flight level 600.
And above.
And above.
You don't know where they went.
So Mr. Gulfstream captain says, Atlanta Center, who's that above me? And I start thinking to myself, what am I going to say? So I just said, oh, that's Dragonlady.
Yeah, because you were concerned if you were allowed to say it.
I didn't know. I thought for a second, are they in a secret mission? but they're talking to me. They got their transponder on. So I just said, it's the Dragonlady. And the Gulfstream captain says, what altitude are they at? And without hesitation, the Dragonlady captain says, wouldn't you like to know? Iconic. So I got to work the U-2. And by the way, they maintain 4,000 feet a minute through 60,000 feet.
That's freaking incredible.
They maintain 4,000 feet through 60. I didn't even know what to do. I called my soup over. I said, what do I do right now? Like, do I tell them to maintain VFR? And we all were collectively like, I don't know.
I don't care what you say. They're going to do whatever they want.
They went through 60 and just kept on
You don't
cruising.
have to say anything. They know that they're free.
And he said, wouldn't you like to know?
That's amazing. I have a U-2 story. You just reminded me.
All right, go ahead.
Last year at Oshkosh, I had the opportunity to ride in the chase car for the U-2 coming in, which was incredible. And the neat thing is that the chase cars for the Dragonlady are also Dragonlady pilots. So I got to spend several hours with one of the Dragonlady pilots, and she was awesome. So she drove the car. They found actually a car just on the grounds to use. I'm going to say this car name wrong and say it for me.
Alfa Romeo.
An Alfa Romeo.
Can I stop you for a second?
Yep.
So the best part to me, because I'm remembering this now, is when you posted that video, it went viral. Naturally, who wouldn't get excited to see a U-2? And most of the comments were about how did Alfa Romeo
About the car.
get...
So many people had such big concerns about the car. Why is the government got Alfa Romeos, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, they don't. This was a one-off. I guess the U-2 wasn't fully scheduled to come to Oshkosh, and they decided to. So that was the fastest car they could find on the grounds, and that's why we used it. But traditionally, they use, I think, Dodge Chargers. So anyway, it was just by happen chance that we were in that car. But the neat thing is that, like, you come out, they have a walkie-talkie in the car and to the U-2 pilot. And so they're talking the whole time. And so the pilot in the car has to time it correctly. So basically, when the Dragonlady's on short final, they just stomp on the gas and turn onto the runway, which is an awful feeling, by the way, that you see an airplane about to land and you roll onto the runway in front of it as it's coming down to land. And oh, by the way, why do they need a chase car? Because they can't see. So you're going to pull out in a car in front of an aircraft that cannot see the ground? That's scary. So you're coming onto the runway and then she just floors it. I mean, pedal to the ground. And we are going as fast as we can. And then from behind, you can hear the plane getting closer and closer. Terrifying to be a passenger in the car. And then all of a sudden, the visual of the aircraft just breaks over the top of the windshield. And you see this huge ass plane come just feet over your car, reminding you again, the pilot cannot see. That's why we're there. So there's no collision avoidance. And the person driving the car can't see the aircraft either. It's all based on timing and their training. God bless the USA. So anyways, it comes over. It's crazy. And then as we're going over 100 miles an hour in the car, she's on the walkie-talkie at the same time, one hand driving down the runway, talking to the pilot, saying 10 feet, 8 feet, 6 feet, 5 feet, 4 feet, 3 feet. And so the numbers that she's giving out is how far above he was from the runway. And then getting down into the flare, 2 feet, 1 feet, 1 feet, 2 feet, 1 feet, 1 feet, 1 feet, 1 foot, I guess, 1 foot, 1 foot, and then bring them the whole way down to the ground. And so we got to do 2 of those actually. And that was the craziest like aircraft encounter I could say I probably ever had.
I love it. I love it. We both had some little Dragonlady stories there.
Yeah, what are the chances? I didn't even think about that until you just told this story.
No. For those of you who haven't seen that video, go on Mindy's Instagram. It is unbelievable.
Check it out. It's a crazy video. One of my proudest moments, and I didn't even do anything except sit there.
Sit there.
Well, thank you guys again, as always, for listening in to this non-anonymous episode of some of our stories. So we figured we'd put ourselves out there just like you guys are doing for us.
Thanks for listening. Remember, every Wednesday, a new episode's coming out. Look forward to having you guys listen again.
We will see you soon. Bye.
Thanks for flying with Captain John Doe. If you have a story to share, visit CaptainJohnDoe.com and stay anonymous. New episodes every Wednesday. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and tell your favorite crew members.